My daughter's beautiful and very lovable.
Yeah.
And has a heart
She's
of
amazing.
gold.
She's the most amazing person that I was meeting in my life, you know?
Marissa just sat down across from Edward in her New York City apartment and told him, straight to his face, that in all this time she has never once seen him succeed at anything in his life. Not, I'm worried. Not, I have doubts. She said she has never seen him be successful. Period. And Edward didn't back down. He looked at her and said, if she can't give him respect, they are not getting married. Full stop. That's where we ended up this week, and by the time we get through everything that led up to that moment, you are going to understand exactly why this line landed the way it did. Let's get into it. If you've been watching this season, you already know Marissa and Edward have been in a slow-motion car crash from day one, and I mean that in the most watchable way possible. Marissa is a Kleinfeld executive. She's got 2 kids from a previous marriage. She's put together. She's successful. And by every account, she runs a tight ship. Edward came over from the Dominican Republic to be with her, and almost the second he landed, the rules started. Shoes off at the door. Fine. Normal. Plenty of households do that. Then it was the closet. Edward relocated his entire life, everything he owns, into 2 rods in a shared closet. Then it was the bed. Sheets pulled tight, corners crisp, pillows facing one specific direction, and if it wasn't done exactly right, it got redone. Edward said out loud that it felt like being in the military. And then there was the bathroom situation, which honestly still gets me. Marissa revealed that she never even let her ex-husband use that bathroom, and she framed it like Edward should feel lucky just to be allowed in there, except he's still not allowed to use her shower because that's her quote-unquote private decompression time. Add in the packaged, pre-boiled eggs and the protein shakes for breakfast, which visibly confused the man, and you've basically got a household with a very specific rulebook that Edward is expected to just absorb by osmosis. Now here's the thing, and I want to be fair for a second before I get into the rest of this, because it's easy to just pile on. Structure isn't a crime. Having standards for your home isn't a crime. Plenty of people are particular about how their bed gets made or how their kitchen runs, and that's not automatically a red flag. But stick with me, because what happens next is where this stops being about pillows and starts being about something else entirely. Marissa's mom came to visit, and I want you to understand how cold this introduction was from the jump. There was no warmth, no easing in. She got straight to it, essentially implying that Edward might be here for the paperwork more than for her daughter. Edward held his ground, talked about what he'd given up to be there, said what he liked about Marissa. And even then, Marissa wasn't thrilled with his answer, saying afterward that what he said was a little too macho for her taste, that he left out the parts that actually mattered to her. So even when the man is trying, under pressure, in front of her mother, it's still not quite right. And that's the pattern you need to hold on to, because it's the same pattern that shows up again in the moment we're actually here to talk about. Every single time Edward does something, it gets measured against a standard only Marissa can see, and somehow it never quite clears the bar. But hang on. Because what happens in episode 9 takes this whole dynamic and cranks it up to a level we haven't seen yet this season. So episode 9. Marissa takes Edward to her actual apartment in New York City, away from the house, away from the kids, just the 2 of them. And right out of the gate, she tells him he still looks sad, like he wants to cry. Not, are you okay? Not, let's talk about what's bothering you, but essentially pointing out his sadness like a flaw. And Edward, to his credit, is honest. He tells her he feels aggravated. He feels pressured just to be with her. Sit with that phrase for a second. Pressurized. That is not a word a person uses when things are going well. Marissa, for her part, admits she knows she's being harsh, but she says she's doubting the whole thing, and she drops the line that 90 days isn't a lot of time to figure out something this big. Which, fair, actually, 90 days really isn't a lot of time for a life-altering decision. I'll give her that one. But then Edward says something that I think is the real turning point of this entire conversation. He tells her she likes having control over everything, when really, as the man of the house, that role should be his. Now, you can already predict how that lands with a woman who has spent this entire season enforcing a rule book down to which direction a decorative pillow faces. But watch what she does with it, because it's not what you'd expect. She laughs. She tells him to be more productive. She says she has high expectations, and she genuinely doesn't know if he can meet them. And here's the phrase she uses to defend herself. She says it's not about money, it's about thinking ahead. She says she hates having to spell things out for him, but if she doesn't, he's not going to learn how she operates in real life. I want you to notice that phrasing, how she operates. Not how they operate together, how she operates, and he's expected to learn it. Edward doesn't just roll over here, and honestly, this is the most I've respected him all season. He tells her he's not someone who lies in bed doing nothing, that he's not lazy, that all he actually needs from her is time to figure things out. Reasonable request, right? A little grace, a little patience while he adjusts to an entirely new country, language, culture, and relationship all at once. But Marissa is not moved. And this is where we get to the line that kicked off this whole video. She tells him it's very easy to say he needs time to figure things out when she has never once seen him figure anything out. And then she goes further. She says she has faith in him as a person, but she has yet to see him be successful in his life at all. Let that sink in for a second, because that's not, "I'm worried about our future." That's a direct, personal indictment of the man sitting across from her, delivered while he's already told her he feels pressured and aggravated just being in the relationship. And Edward's response is the line we started this whole video on. He tells her that for a man, the most important thing is respect, and if she doesn't give him that respect, they are not getting married. Not, "I'm upset." Not, "Let's talk about this." A flat, clear ultimatum. Respect or nothing. Now here's what makes this whole scene so much messier than a simple villain and victim story, and I think this is genuinely the most interesting part of the whole thing. Marissa doesn't just steamroll past what he said, she actually softens, at least a little. She admits she's hyper-independent because she's terrified of being let down by people. She says she feels disappointed in herself for being so, in her words, horrible to him. That's real self-awareness, or at least the appearance of it on camera. But then, almost in the same breath, she pulls right back to her original position, saying she doesn't have a lot of time to assess whether this is the right decision for her, and that if he had just been more prepared when he arrived, she wouldn't be feeling this level of anxiety about whether he's going to, quote, cut it. So, which is it? Is she a woman being genuinely, uncomfortably honest about her fears in a high-stakes 90-day timeline? Or is she someone who frames control as concern, who turns her own anxiety into a referendum on Edward's worth as a partner? Because those are two very different things. And this episode somehow manages to show you both at once. And by the way, this isn't happening in a vacuum. Marissa has been very aware of how she's coming across to fans this season. She's actually spoken publicly this week, responding to what she called brutal criticism from viewers, defending the relationship, and pushing back on the narrative that's formed around her. So she knows. She knows the internet has decided she's this season's most controlling partner, and she's still out here in the same week telling Edward, on camera, that she's never seen him succeed at anything. That's either a woman who genuinely doesn't see the pattern, or a woman who sees it and doesn't think it's a problem. Neither one is a great look. Here's my actual take on all of this, and I know it's not going to be a popular take with everybody, but I think it's the honest one. I don't think Marissa is lying when she says she's scared of wasting time on the wrong person. That fear is real, and given her past marriage, I understand where it comes from. But being scared doesn't give you the right to tell someone, to their face, that you've never seen them succeed at anything, especially when that person just told you they feel pressured and aggravated in the relationship. That's not honesty. That's a power move dressed up as honesty. And Edward drawing a line of respect isn't him being fragile. If anything, it's the healthiest thing we've seen him do all season. My hot take, and I really do mean this. Marissa isn't necessarily a bad person, but she is currently treating a relationship like a performance review, and nobody falls in love with their manager. So here's what I want to know from you, and I actually mean this. Drop it in the comments. Do you think Marissa's honesty here is fair, even if it's harsh, because she's just being real about her doubts? Or do you think this is control dressed up as concern? The same pattern we've seen all season with the pillows in the closet and the shower, just with higher stakes this time? Because I've seen people in the comments split right down the middle on this couple, and I want to know exactly where you land. Before you go, the next episode is already looking rough for this couple, because the preview shows Marissa spiraling into even more doubt about the whole relationship. And if that's where episode 9 leaves off, episode 10 might be the moment this whole thing actually falls apart on camera. So if you don't want to miss that breakdown, make sure you're subscribed, because I will have it up the second it airs. If this video helped you make sense of what actually happened in that apartment, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel more than you'd think. I'll see you in the next one.